This is the Neoliberal Around podcast.
So thanks very much to both of you. And really, I want everyone to understand what happens here. Then I'm seeing multiple opportunities on the road, and then you're sitting there waiting, and Donald Trump walks in. What happened? Well, first of all, because I think there's so much money that I put
This is the Neoliberal Around podcast.
Go ahead.
Welcome. This evening, we want to take you along on a journey with us. You, being our tourists, we want to take you along on two very beautiful islands, the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and that of the Bahamas. Our tour guides for this evening are Natasha Spence, Talika Bernard Rose, myself, Shannon Collins Wright, Howard Bowley, and Miss Gay Henry. We want to start with the history of these two islands. So St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Bahamas, they're two nations in the Atlantic. They are woven with common threads of indigenous heritage, European colonization, and the enduring legacy of African slavery. However, the specific contours of their past diverge significantly, shaped by different geographies, colonial experiences, and post-independence trajectories. While the Bahamas' history is a story of early European contact, depopulation, and the notorious age of piracy, followed by tourism, fueled prosperity. St. Vincent and the Grenadines' narrative is one of fierce indigenous resistance, a brutal plantation economy, and a more recent struggle of economic diversification. This is a summary based on what was asked earlier, because you all said you didn't want to be on the long journey, so this is the short version.
Looking at St. Vincent and the Grenadines, an enchanting archipelago of 32 islands and cays.
Continue, my fellow tour guide. So the historical context of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Go ahead. In the pre-Columbus era, the islands were initially inhabited by various Amerindian groups, including the Siboney, the Arawaks, and later the Caribs, who were very fierce, who arrived around the 13th century. The Caribs called the island Halrona, which means land of the blessed. I hope I pronounced it properly. The colonial period saw the European making contact, which began in the early 16th century through the Spanish, made no serious settlement attempts. The French were the first Europeans to establish settlement in the early 18th century, maintaining better relations with the indigenous peoples than the British. Path to independence. From 1763 until independence, St. Vincent passed through various stages of colonial status under British rule. A representative assembly was authorized.
Vincent and
We're now moving on to the Bahamas.
Vincent and the Grenadines is located in the southern Caribbean. It consists of the main island of St. Vincent and a chain of smaller islands stretching southward toward Grenada. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has a total land area of only 389 square kilometers, making it one of the world's smaller nations. However, its captivating geography includes lush green mountains, idyllic beaches, and charming offshore islets.
The Bahamas is a beautiful island nation located in the Atlantic Ocean, southeast of Florida in the United States. Made up of over 700 islands, the Bahamas has a surface area of 13,878 square kilometers and
Go ahead, play the video. Okay, let's continue. The historical context of Bahamas. So the Bahamas holds the distinction of being the site of Christopher Columbus's first landfall. I did not say discovery. You can't discover somewhere where persons were already existing. So this happened in 1492. This encounter had devastating consequences for the indigenous Lucan people who were decimated within a few decades by disease and forced labor. Subsequently, the islands were largely abandoned by Europeans for over a century. In the 17th century, English Puritans from the Bermuda, known as the Eleutherian adventurers, established the first permanent European settlement. However, the Bahamas soon became infamous as a haven for pirates, with notorious figures like Blackbeard and Calico Jack. We all know Calico Jack because some of us might drink it here in Jamaica. Using the island's shallow waters as numerous cays as a base of operations. This era of lawlessness ended in 1718, where the British established a crown colony and restored order, defining moment in Bahamian history as the influx of thousands of American loyalists as their enslaved people following the American Revolutionary War. This migration profoundly shaped the demographic and cultural landscape of the Bahamas, solidifying a plantation-based society in some areas and establishing a significant African descendant population. The 20th century saw the gradual decline of the agricultural sector and the rise of tourism and offshore finance as the twin pillars of Bahamian economy. The movement towards independence gained momentum in the mid-20th century, led by figures like Sir Lynden Pinding and his Progressive Liberal Party, the PLP. The Bahamas received independence from Britain on July 10th, 1973. Next slide. The demographic and population makeup. St. Vincent and the Grenadines boast about 110,000 inhabitants, with minor groups of mixed-race people. These comprise of the East Indians, the Europeans, and the indigenous Caribs, known as the Garifuna. The majority, roughly 66%, are of African descent. Although economic difficulties have led to widespread emigration to nations like the United Kingdom, Canada, and the United States, the population is pretty young. While rural areas remain underdeveloped, urban places like Kingston have increasing density. Yes, they do have a Kingston too. The Bahamas boast about 400,000 people. If I have anyone here, my tourists from Jamaica, you might find a lot of similarities with your country. With a small percentage of Europeans, Asians, and mixed-race people, around 90% are African-born. Most Bahamians live on New Providence Island, where Nassau, the capital, is found. Though great poverty still exists in the underprivileged areas, the middle class is increasing. For labor in construction and tourism, the nation has seen rising foreign immigration, like yourselves here today. While St. Vincent and the Grenadines is more rural and ethnically varied because of its indigenous and Garifuna heritage, the Bahamas is more urbanized and has a higher population density in its capital areas.
We'll play a video to summarize what was just said regarding the demographics. Trying to move the slide, not moving.
There you go.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is situated between St. Lucia to the north and Grenada to the south. To the west lies the Caribbean Sea. The nation consists of 32 islands and cays. The largest island is St. Vincent, which covers around 344 square kilometers. Some of the other major islands include Bekia, Mustique, Canoan, Mairo, Union Island, Palm Island, and Petit Saint Vincent.
Pause it for a second, guys.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Where is this who is this video with the person is speaking? Where did you get this video from? It's not the Caribbean. It's not a Caribbean source, or it's not a Caribbean speaker. I am offended. I am offended.
The speaker is a Caribbean speaker, sir.
No, it's just that it's just it. Go and pronounce Grenada like that.
Yes, because
pronounce Grenada. That's how Caribbean speakers pronounce Grenada. Grenadans or Grenadines, people from the Grenadines don't say Granada. Okay? When you listen to how this guy is speaking, he's not from the Caribbean. Okay?
Sir, you might, but sir, remember the Caribbean is made up of various people in it, sir. Different people, different accent, persons who come from overseas. And
I know. I tell you, I have lived in Grenada. I have family from Grenada. I've lived in Cayman Islands. I've lived in the Bahamas. I'm well traveled throughout the Caribbean. This video is not a Caribbean video. The speaker is not Caribbean. I will allow you to play it. But as I said to you, in Caribbean thought, we do not promote Europeans, and we don't care what if they say something, we're gonna critique it. But I want you to, if you're gonna present on the islands, don't use the World Atlas. Don't use European and American books. Use Caribbean sources, or you just do it yourself. Okay, but I'll allow it, so you can go ahead.
Okay, sir. All right, let us go back to the video. And sir, it's because it's just a summary. It's nothing in depth, so to speak, sir. It's not speaking of the culture. It's just a summary, but you will see.
All right, go ahead.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is situated between St. Lucia to the north and Grenada to the south. To the west lies the Caribbean Sea. The nation consists of 32 islands and cays. The largest island is St. Vincent, which covers around 344 square kilometers. Some of the other major islands include Bekia, Mustique, Canoan, Mairo, Union Island, Palm Island, and Petit Saint Vincent. Scattered between these larger islands are many tiny uninhabited islets. The terrain of St. Vincent is dominated by a central mountain range called the Soufriere Mountains. The tallest peak is La Soufriere volcano at 1,234 meters. Besides the towering volcano, the interior mountains are covered in thick rainforest, and narrow valleys and rivers radiate outward from the rugged mountains toward the coastline. The Grenadine Islands have a flatter topography consisting of coral and volcanic rock. St. Vincent's offshore islets are picturesque, with sandy beaches, palm trees, and rocky cliffs. The island is home to a small but vibrant population of around 100,000 people, according to World Bank data. St. Vincentians come from diverse origins and have developed a unique culture in the Caribbean.
The
Around
Bahamas is a beautiful island nation located in the Atlantic Ocean, southeast of Florida in the United States. Made up of over 700 islands, the Bahamas has a surface area of 13,878 square kilometers and a population of about 400,000 people.
So there you have it, sir. It was just a summary of the.
Well, I like how you end it with that Caribbean speaker.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Our next presenter, or my tour guide rather, will be Ms. Talika, who will give you the socio-political economic systems of both islands.
Guys, before you go any further, I want you to understand what we're trying to do in this class. And I want you to understand what we've been saying. Institutions, according to Michel Foucault, who, yes, he's from France. However, I am using him right now to highlight a theoretical imperative. Michel Foucault teaches or theorizes that institutions within Western societies or within societies are developed to maintain a particular knowledge so as to create a particular knowledge to maintain a particular behavior. Yes, institutions that have been hijacked, institutions that help to create colonization or fuel colonization. Okay, and it is very important for you to understand that in this class we recognize that what we need to do, and we talk about the center versus the periphery. Yes, we want you to promote global South information and content. Yes, we want you to celebrate you. We want you to recognize you.
In essence,
the education that we have has always borrowed from overseas, always borrowed from UK, always borrowed from America. Now, what's the consciousness we are trying to develop when we constantly borrow from overseas?
It's not promoting us. You weren't telling our side of the story. We are just simply relaying the information that was given, which is not correct.
Right. And so therefore, not only should we relay, but we should challenge. Not only should we relay, but we should critique. Yes, that's part of what we do in academia. We have to critique, we have to explore, we have to look at alternatives. And so, but because this is a Caribbean thought course, and we want you to develop Caribbean thinking within a Caribbean milieu and mold, it's very important that as a professor or facilitator that I zero in on that, okay? Because what we have been doing is, how can we talk about, the Afrocentric paradigm focuses on a position of victory than a position of defeat, okay? The African or the brown people, the nothing black, no good. That is the thinking. Yes, we're trying to move away from that. Everything black is good, okay? And so we highlight our content, our institutions, our philosophies, and so on and so forth, okay? And if we're going to draw on outsiders, we critique it and maybe use it to supplement, okay? But I just wanted to draw attention to that. All right, go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. We want to welcome you one more time to our tour as we look at these beautiful islands, and we are so happy to have you. And so I am going to share with you the socio-political economic system of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we're so happy to have you today. So the government structure, St. Vincent and the Grenadines operates as a parliamentary democracy within the Commonwealth, and they are similar to Jamaica in the sense of that they were also under the British rule, which is King Charles III as the head of state, represented by the Governor General. The country achieved independence from Britain on October 27, 1979, making it the last of the Windward Islands to gain independence. The government follows a Westminster-style parliamentary system with the Prime Minister of the head of a government. The political landscape, the current Prime Minister, and that is Dr. Ralph Gosselin of the United Labour Party, who has been in office since 2001 and is the longest continual serving prime minister since independence. The political system includes multiple parties, with the main opposition being the New Democratic Party. Economic system. The economic operates on a mixed economy with complementary roles from private sectors, again, which is another similarity to Jamaica, cooperative sectors, and state. St. Vincent is classified as a lower middle income country with a GDP per capita of approximately $13,259. The economy is heavily dependent on agriculture, particularly
13,259,000.
Thank you. Particularly banana production, which accounts for 60% of the workforce and 50% of merchandise export. Tourism has grown significantly, surpassing banana export as the chief source of foreign exchange. And to take you on our journey, we will have our another tour guide.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bernard. Welcome again, my tourists. So I'm going to look at the political economic system of Bahamas. Well, so the government structure. The Bahamas is a constitutional parliamentary democracy and a Commonwealth realm, with King Charles III as its head of state. The country gained independence from Britain on July 10th, 1973, making the end of a 325 years of British colonial rule. The government operates under a Westminster system with a
bicameral.
Thank you. Bicameral parliament consisting of 40 members elected House of Assembly and a 16-member appointed state.
Senate.
Continuing the political landscape, the current Prime Minister is Philip Davis of the Progressive Liberal Party, PLP, who has been in office since 2021. The main opposition is the Free National Movement, FNM. Politically stability has been maintained with regular democratic elections since independence. And now let's look into the economic system. The Bahamas operates a predominantly market economy, heavily independent on tourism and international.
All right, guys, you have 3 minutes, but I'm going to give you up until 8 to wrap up if you need that. But
thank you very much, sir.
I just want to give an example. The time is of the essence, so you're presenting. So you could say Bahamas has a market economy. Okay, the focus is on tourism and international financial services. High income by the World Bank. I don't even know by who. According to the World Bank, high income is a high income developed country. Tourism alone provides so they get revenue from the country is heavily dependent on tourism, unlike other Caribbean countries. Okay,
yes,
where
sir.
you have bauxite and so on, and so on, and then you move to the next one. You see, so don't you don't have to say the Bahamas operate a predominantly market economy. Just read it quick. Just read it. You would have known this already. So just highlight the most important part. Okay, tourism is Bahamas doesn't have other sectors like other Caribbean islands because of its size and so on. It's tourism. So if something happens, if tourism is affected in the world, if there's a problem with tourism,
it will suffer.
Oh my God. So what is Bahamas doing to mitigate and to stymie that? I would love to know. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. But continue.
Our next presenter is Mr. Howard Bowley. Sir, you're up.
So good night, everyone. As you said, time is of the essence. So we're looking at the current economic system in St. Vincent. Despite the pandemic in 2020, and also they had a volcanic eruption also, the economy is bouncing back. As was stated earlier, they are heavily dependent on banana production, and now tourism is at a boom in the country. Also, they have developed in 2017 a new international airport to help to boost tourism in the country. They also are engaging in infrastructural upgrades. They are also have a fiscal system that the government is somewhat tight on the purse because they are more into reform, similar to what is taking place in Jamaica, where they are exhibiting fiscal prudence. Perhaps that might be because of external pressure from IMF and World Bank, because they're also borrowers from those international agencies, right? Regional standing: as a member of the CARICOM, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, and the Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas, St. Vincent plays an active role in regional integration. Also, for the current economic system for Bahamas has not changed over the years. They are heavily dependent on tourism. The main threat to their economy, and like most of us in the Caribbean, is natural disaster, mainly hurricane. And they were hit in 2019 before the pandemic with Hurricane Dorian. And then immediately after that, we had the pandemic. So they are recovering, and they are recovering steadily. What is of interest to note is that Bahamas, who was once known as perhaps one of the most beautiful islands in the country and attracting tourists, now is being known for something else. They are now being noted for their crime. Their crime is going up. So that also might impact how tourists travel to these countries, and that in turn will impact the economic situation in Bahamas. As is noted, they are highly dependent on tourism. As to how they might develop something new to build the economy, it is yet to be seen. So despite its prosperity, the country faced persistent challenges, including limited economic diversification. That's what we're just talking about. High import dependency, vulnerability to natural disaster, as I said before, and crime is on the uptick. So we now hand over to another member who will take us through the religious breakdown.
That's me, Shannon. All right. So Christianity is the major or predominant religion in both Caribbean nations, which are St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Bahamas. Now, in our history, the Bahamas, who were predominantly Lucayans, were the first indigenous people, and they worshipped what were known as Zimis. Now, the Zimis are no longer being worshipped, or we no longer have this practice, because with Europeans coming in, most of what was there was wiped out. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines, their indigenous people were the Kalyangos and the Caribs. They offered fierce resistance to the Europeans, and What remained were the practices of the Europeans. So we had such distinctions as the Roman Catholic, the Anglicans, the Methodists. These are denominations which are found in Christianity. These are still what plays a fundamental roles within these islands. You have a small, significant number of persons who still have these, what we call the indigenous religions. The indigenous religions are what we call the Rastafarians, the Rastafarians, or the religion of Rastafari. You have other small religions such as, anybody want to help me a little?
Hinduism, Muslim, and Eastern Indian of primarily religion of Eastern Indian origins.
Rastafari, thanks. And by the way, when you talk
those
about,
are not indigenous Caribbean religions. The indigenous Caribbean religions would be that of Voodoo.
Oh, yes.
Oh Lord, my thoughts are somewhat mixed up. So we still have the Anglicans, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Baptists, the Methodists, the Roman Catholics, all the major denominations that you can think of. But when you talk about indigenous Caribbean religions, we talk about those of the Rastafari, those of the Voodoo. Those can still be found in Haiti and other parts of the Caribbean where we have the break off of voodoo. Some of these can even be called, well, some persons might call it craftsmanship, but it's not really craftsmanship. It's just African descendants who still hold their practices and their beliefs dear and pass it down to their inhabitants or their descendants.
thanks. And by the way, the Rastas pronounce that their religion. Well, I mean, Rastas call themselves Rastafari
or Rastafarians.
No.
They don't use ism because of the negativity of that word ism. They always say ism, schism, because ism is used as an inferior attachment to their religion and their way of life and thought.
Well, yes, because just so you know, when you think about ism, the ism is a system. If I ask you to define neoliberalism, it's 3 words, or 3 words. If you can break it up in 3, new liberal, which means literally means free, and ism, which is a system, yeah, or a mechanism. So anything that ends in ism is a system, but Rastafarians don't want to be associated with the Babylon, quote unquote, Babylon, they call that Babylon system. Babylon is a term used to define the other, what indigenous people used to define the other. So Rastafarians or Rastafari. Yes, so go ahead.
Yes, sir. And I just want to make an interjection there. The religion, even though we say Rastafari, even though we say Rastafari in the Caribbean, they actually say Rastafari, because Ras coming from the Imperial Majesty himself, and the Tafari to be in line with the tribe in which he was from, and I meaning me. So Rastafari, that is how the name came about.
Wait, hold on, but that's not how they pronounce it. I've never heard Rastafari pronounced Rastafari. Never in my life. Rastafari?
Well, I'm telling you, I had some deep
Never heard it either.
Wait, where are you? What country are you?
Jamaica.
And you heard?
I had to do some deep study.
Rastafari is how the Americans pronounce it here in the US. But in the Jamaica,
It's Rastafari.
Rastafari. I mean, and Rastafari
Yes.
sounds too cute. It sounds
Yeah.
no.
I know it does, and I had an issue with it too until I had to do my research, and they told me that they
It's
had to.
Rastafari.
Yes, they said it's
No.
it's Rastafari.
Yes.
The Jamaican pronunciation because
Oh.
of where it originated.
Accent.
But when you go elsewhere, it's Rastafari.
But
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why it's not Rastafari. That is a hearsay. Let me tell you why. Because the Rastafarians,
I got it from Rastafarian.
they always end with I. Rastafari.
Right.
Wait,
I.
listen. No, listen. Rastafari.
So it's Rasta for me.
No, but listen, I'm telling you, Rastafari, and then I. You can say Rastafari and then come up with the I. But Rastafari, oh, I don't even know. But anyway, that's an accent. So potato, tomato.
It was a big thing for me, and that's why I questioned
quite
it.
interesting. Well, let me tell you, the Jamaicans, Rastafarianism or Rastafarians, Rastafari started in Jamaica. Okay, so the Jamaicans pronounce it as Rastafari, and I'm quite sure in Bahamas they say Rastafari as well, and Rastafarian. But once you get to the America, they say Rastafari. Okay, so you know. Okay. But we have to wrap up. But this is quite interesting. Is there anything else you have to present, like the influences?
Yes, we do.
Yes, sir. We have the influencers
presented by our tour guide Natasha Spence.
And then what else after that?
The conclusion.
Okay, all right. Wrap up, because I know we don't have much time because we have another group to present. 2 other groups. The other group will present, and then the final group, if they will present, and if they're not finished, they'll pick up the following week. So we'll do that. I want to make a point after you guys are finished, based on your presentation, which is going to take about 3 minutes. It's a very powerful comment from what you have presented, from what I've read, from what I've noticed. And I want to know if you guys notice it too. Okay, but finish, wrap it up, and then we'll talk.
Okay, sir. Miss Spence, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everyone. So just to go through it quickly, we have notable figures in both Caribbean countries, covering politics, arts, and sports, and also activism. In Grenada, St. Vincent and Grenadines, you have Ralph Gosalve. He is the Prime Minister since 2001 and is the longest serving head of government in SVG's history. We also have Sir James Mitchell, founding member of the New Democratic Party and former Prime Minister between 1984 and 2000. Then we have Susan Dogan, current Governor General, appointed in 2019, and she was the first female to hold this post in the SVG. For arts and culture, we have Kevin Little, international known soca artist famous for the hit song Turn Me On. And then we have Franklin Seals, Hollywood actor, best known for the TV sitcom Silver Spoons in the 1980s. Then for sports, we have Obed McCoy, West Indies cricketer, and a fast bowler. Represented the regional team in the T20 matches. And we have Sunil Ambrose, Vincent, well, she's a Vincentian cricketer who played for the the West Indies national team. For the Bahamas, we have on the politics and leadership, we have Sir Lyndon Tindlin, considered to be the father of the nation as he led Bahamas into independence from the Britain in 1973 and also served as prime minister between 1967 to 1992. Harry Christie is the former prime minister 2002 to 2007 and then again 2012 to 2017 and is also an influential leader. You have Phillips Davis, which is the current Prime Minister of the Bahamas since 2021. For arts and culture, we have Sidney Poitier, Oscar-winning actor and civil rights icon, born in Miami to Bahamian parents and raised in the Bahamas. Lenny Kravitz, while American, Kravitz has a strong Bahamian roots through his mother, actress Roxy Rocker, and frequently highlights his heritage. Then you have Kirkland KB Body, Bahamian musician known for blending rake and scrape with social commentary. For sports, we have Shanae Miller, Olympic gold medalist in the 400 meter, Rio 2016 and Tokyo 2020. She's known for her dramatic dive finish. You have Stephen Gardner, world champion and Olympic gold medalist in the 400 meter sprint. Buddy Hield, NBA player for the Bahamas, currently with the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers. And those are notable.
Wait, say that again. Who played for the 76ers?
The Buddy, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Oh, yes, Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield.
Yes.
He probably, but he was playing for the Sixers. You are right. He played for the Sixers. And I forgot. I remember when he was, but he was on the bench. He was a bench player. He wasn't a major. I didn't really like Buddy Hield.
And there are other persons.
May I please interject?
Go ahead. I'm in Philadelphia, okay? I'm in Philadelphia, and you just say something. Philadelphian ears perked up. My ears got perked up because the Sixers, that's one of my teams.
I can't believe I left off the indigenous religion of Dugo, which was a sacred ceremony in St. Vincent, which was celebrated by the Garifuna spiritual people and the ancestors.
Let me ask you a question. When you should do some reading about those people, the Dugo people.
The Dugo people.
Do some, and how old is that practice, that tradition, that spiritual, that religion? How old is it? Okay, is it older than Christianity? And just so you know, the Ethiopian Orthodox.
Yes, it is.
Okay, why is it that it's not normative and it is seen as evil in the Caribbean?
Because, sir, our religion, anything, as you said earlier, anything black no good, and it was predominantly wiped out because it was not European, or they didn't want, they wanted something to control the people.
Everything everything African is wiped out. If it is bad, they'll keep it. But if it means bringing the people together,
if we had our beliefs and our systems, we will be stronger.
Yeah.
If we were allowed to hold on to our identity, we will be stronger. But you have to wipe out a man's belonging and his identity to be able to control him.
There we go. That's the issue of power. Power works like that. And when you define power, the first thing power does is to redefine a thing. So the thing is, and that's colonization. That's the process of colonization. According to Frantz Fanon, to colonize is to dehumanize, is to depersonalize, is to redefine a thing for what it is not. And the thing, it is to impose upon a thing for what it is not, so as to take away and to strip it of any value that it has. So remember that you're redefining. Frantz Fanon in The Wretched of the Earth, one of our recommended reading or textbook, Frantz Fanon. If you read Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, he defines colonization as the depersonalization of the human. Okay, that involves redefining the African and their religion. Okay, not only that, part of power involves exceptionalizing the status oneself over another, so as to impose and to penetrate. Okay, the Caribbean has been penetrated, the African has been penetrated. Okay, their religion has been imposed upon, so that even within the African himself, he looks at his own things, his own stuff, his own creation with disdain, as evil. Okay, although even if he has discovered that anything that comes from him has been redefined, yes, which is an act of power, which is an act of domination, yes, an act of domination to dominate. Okay, all right, and that's very important for us to understand. But do go quite interesting as against Obia. And then when just now you guys showed me the breakup, the look at the religion, then we look at all the religions, Anglican, that most of them are Europeans.
Yes, they
The
are.
most dominant one, then of course it shows
The Roman Catholic.
that is that is when you ask what post-colonialism is, it studies the lingering effects, yes, of colonization.
If we're given more time, we can go down into all of that, but we had to
We
skim
don't
it
have
through.
much time, I know, yes, but the damage done to the black man or to the African or to the brown man, the damage done. He not only does he bleach his skin with bleaching cream, but he also tried to bleach his his personality, okay, with
his own customs,
with a European value system or spirituality. Okay, yes. Now, I want to make a very important point. Is there something you guys? This is a powerful point, and I can't continue. I gotta make this point for the purposes of to satisfy the course's goal and the outcome. If you read your textbook, Neoliberalism, the book that I wrote, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty, and Resistance. When I wrote this book, I wrote that book it's based on a hunch, on a hypothesis, on a study. I said I wanted to look at the relationship between the application of globalist strategies in the Caribbean, because according to Fabrizio Eva and to classical economists, if countries plug themselves in neoliberal globalization, yes, if one plug themselves, then it will create production, it will create growth, it will create riches. But the Caribbean has not experienced that. So what we say is that neoliberal globalization or globalization was a facade. It was a strategy to continue to prop up post-industrial or the status quo or the dominant class, okay, and to maintain, maintain their competitive edge over the rest. Okay, so that is very important to understand. One of the things that you must remember that there's a difference. Earlier, Howard said that crime and violence is high in Bahamas. Crime and violence is high throughout the Caribbean, but these are small countries. Okay, and when you look at Trinidad never had all that crime and violence, but now crime and violence is on the rise. When you look at throughout the Caribbean, they've had to deal with crime and violence, and sometimes the crime will go down. The security forces and the government they deal with it, and crime and violence goes down, and then and of course, but it's never short-lived. I'm sorry, it's never maintained. It's short-lived. It's transient. Crime and violence always goes back up. Same thing with poverty. You slash it to 8.2%, it goes back up. If you read the book looks at poverty throughout the period. But I want you to understand this. There is when you have high levels of income inequality and poverty, like what we have in the Caribbean, you are going to have high levels of crime and violence. That is a Marxist relativist approach, theory and understanding. According to relative deprivation theory within Marxism, which is within Marxism, which is the political system, or which is the system, that says when you have high levels of income inequality and poverty, you're going to have high levels of crime and violence. So within you find that when you have crime, so when you have income inequality rising and poverty rising, you find that crime and violence there's a corresponding relationship. You find that throughout the Caribbean. You find that poverty in Jamaica has dropped. Okay, but so too is crime and violence. Okay, so I want you to understand the idea of relative deprivation as you present. I want you to look at, don't just present, look at the relationship, do your analysis. Remember, you're finding that crime and violence is becoming an issue, but poverty and income inequality, there's rising income disparities throughout the Caribbean, and there's rising poverty. So therefore, that's going to be a corresponding rising crime and violence. That's the relativist theory. I subscribe to that theory. One other thing I wanted to bring your attention to. Howard Boyle and the group, all you guys talk about the issue of what is the main threat to the Caribbean? What's the main threat? What did you guys say was the main threat? What's the main threat, guys? According to the group, there was what's the main threat to the Caribbean? Based on your presentations, what's the main threat? Let's do this quickly. What's the main threat? Somebody help me here.
If tourism should go down, or the selling out of the Caribbean. So
I mean, selling out the Caribbean is not really
of the Caribbean.
I mean, that's not really a threat, but
that's a threat. But
okay.
And if tourism should go down, it would affect us greatly, because that is where we get most of our foreign exchange.
All right. Okay. But you said what other main threat? What about the issue of natural disasters? In your presentation, you said natural disaster is a
volcanic eruptions.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Yes. Natural disasters was cited as one of the main threats.
And of course, and its vulnerability, the Caribbean's vulnerability, that's a threat. Notice, it's very important you understand threat.
Yes.
Okay, you talk about strengths and opportunity. If you do a SWOT analysis of the Caribbean, you're looking at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? The threat here is the natural disasters. The tourism poses a threat, but it also poses an opportunity. The oil in Guyana, that poses an opportunity, but it is also a strength, but maybe a weakness as well. But it's the way how you present that. But the main threat is natural disaster. And I'm going somewhere with it. Follow me here, guys. Natural disasters. Now, disasters affect what? It affects. You talked about the Bahamas had a volcano, whatever, some natural disaster. Disasters affect stability. Natural disasters, Hurricane Gilbert and all them, disasters affect stability. But not only does it affect stability, disasters also reverse and stall growth and development. Disasters not only affect stability, make sure you're writing this, disasters also reverse and stall growth and development. Caribbean needs growth and they need development. Now, in order for economic growth and development to take place, we require, especially within the 21st century, where you have natural disasters that reverse growth, infrastructure, and all those things, it requires capital-intensive mechanism in order to fix what the natural disasters have caused, and not only and will cause. What does the Caribbean lack? Capital-intensive mechanisms. And what do they suffer from? Capital-intensive investments. Because we know that, because with bauxite, we have bauxite, but we have to rely, because we don't have the capital-intensive mechanisms to excavate and to refine it. We have to know we rely on the post-industrial countries. And what they have done is that they have and that's part of the cost. And they raise the cost of their work to help to extract the raw material, so that Guyana is paying 78% and they only get back 12% of the oil. They have oil reserves, but they have to get that. So Guyana is growing, but it's not necessary, but it can be more meaningful. Much of the profit that they get goes back to the post-industrial that helps to maintain their advantages over the rest. But the most important thing what I'm saying is capital intensive mechanism. If you have natural disasters, it means you have to develop your capital intensive mechanism. If you in the Caribbean know that the main threat is natural disasters because it affects your stability, reverse growth and development, and it requires capital intensive mechanism to restore the reversals and so on, and to continue to promote growth and development. What have the Caribbean, what is the Caribbean doing, or what have you done to address the natural disasters? Have you looked at your capital intensive capabilities and mechanism and create and develop a way to bolster capital investment within the Caribbean so as to address their main threat, which is a main threat, natural disasters? What is happening? What has been done?
Really and truly, sir, what has been done is, we can't say nothing because, of course, the government would have put plans in place. But when you look at the fact that these things keep reoccurring and it always incurs a large sum of money, what should have been done is to have workable solutions in place that would mitigate or cover what always happens. So their economic vulnerability, for one, the climate change, and the environmental situations that are faced as a result. Better plans were needed to have been in place that would not only cover the natural infrastructure, but the people within who need to recover.
Very good. And I love the word mitigate. Very good. Indeed. Anybody else?
Sir.
Yes.
I think one of the, if I may, when you look at the Caribbean, and I think you said it last class or the class before, there is resources enough within the Caribbean for the Caribbean people to come together as a community to share these resources and build each country within the Caribbean. When you, as you said the last time, Guyana has oil, Trinidad has oil. There are other Caribbean countries that don't. When you look at the Bahamas, they are heavily reliant on tourists and on the US. If they collaborate with Jamaica and perhaps the rest of the Caribbean, there are other resources here within the Caribbean that they could have benefited from. But I see more of a disunity and looking more to mainland rather than looking within ourselves to come up with solutions and come together as a tighter community to foster growth and become resilient.
Not just that, Howard. They look outside of the Caribbean for help, like those from the Americas or the Europeans for bailouts, instead of looking within, like you said, and working as a unit in helping each other to stay afloat. We always turn into the IMF or external persons to help us within our regions. Yes, we do help each other when there are disasters, but if we had managed our funds and our policies better, I think we would have been able to do a lot more.
Yes, and that's what.
But Shannon,
by the way, sorry, that's what the book suggests. In the 1950s, when we had bauxite bleeding into the 60s, when Jamaica's growth was at 5.7%, rivaling that of Singapore, I said that in neoliberalism. What happened with all them profits that we had? They wasted the windfall profits on a program of populism. Yes, and so on. And so by the time the 1970s hit, we had squandered and wasted all of the monies that we should have used, that would have been able for rainy day.
Waiting to read that book.
You understand what
can I share an example, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of how we can look to each other to build capacity The other day, the Trinidad and Jamaica had an agreement. They have the oil, but their refinery was down. Jamaica has the capacity to refine their oil, right? We took it on ourselves. They signed an agreement. They shipped the oil here. We refined it. And did you know that Jamaica made US $90 million off that deal, while Trinidad got cheaper oil. So much so, the oil was they rival the oil to say it's one of the best best refined oil ever produced. To other country looking to Jamaica to refine theirs. So those are the things we have. So you might have something over there in Trinidad. We have something here in Jamaica. We need to collaborate more, and both countries can benefit, mutually benefit. So I'm thinking if we come together, I think CARICOM is a sham, to be honest. I don't think the purpose for what it was intended to be, it is carrying out that purpose. If we integrate more and have better relation, I think we can move forward as a Caribbean nation, as a Caribbean countries.
Thank you. That's powerful. I love your assessment in terms of, yes, Caribbean unity, Caribbean integration is lacking. And not only that, I think we also lack organization, the ability to effectively organize, galvanize, yes, resources and the diaspora. You guys, listen, we have a strong diaspora. You guys just, some people said, let me tell you, Caribbean people still, when people from the Caribbean go to other parts of the world, there is a strong sense of Caribbean within them, and yes, and that's why remittances are high. Remittances are high. I know people are trying to stymie that with policy and taxing remittances or whatever, or tariffs, whatever the case is. But there's a strong sense of responsibility once people travel, that and it's quite powerful, and that's what define diaspora people. I as a diasporan man, with a Puerto Rican diasporan man, or a Hispanic or a Haitian or they are that one thing that connects us is the word remittances, and we all know Western Union, we all know WhatsApp, okay, because that's part of our responsibility, that's part of our commitment. We still identify with the Caribbean. So we know, and there is money if we organize the diasporan community, but not the diaspora community, not the diaspora for Bahamas. Because, say, for example, you talk about Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz is a multi-millionaire. Rihanna is a billionaire. She's from Barbados. Okay, she's a billionaire. Sidney Poitier and Lenny Kravitz, they're from Bahamas. They're wealthy. Patrick Ewing from Jamaica used to play for New York Knicks, and he's now a coach, I believe. I mean, multi-millionaire. There are hundreds of multi-millionaires, okay, or billionaire from the Caribbean. And then you have the Caribbean, and then you have the diaspora and the Caribbean, and diasporan people are very hardworking. When they come here, they work hard. They are very hardworking. They save, they build, and they try to give back. What if they organize that? And the CARICOM, I support that term. CARICOM, I don't believe that we are as organized. There has to be some kind of consortium and a deeper and a deliberate and an intentional and strategic organization of resources, funds, and people. And we need to take a break in terms of how these investments is happening. Okay, we have to first find a way to unify Caribbean, to integrate and to unify Caribbean people through education and consciousness. That is why I do this course, and I ask you to present on all the Caribbean countries, and we don't include Jamaica, because we're going to talk a lot about Jamaica, but I want you guys to get that when you go to your places, always find opportunities to talk about other Caribbean peoples and nations, that create the consciousness to develop integration and oneness, build Caribbean unity. Okay, so because when there's a groundswell, the groundswell will rise up to the leaders, to the powers, to those who are, and they now will say, okay, wow, we like what's going on the ground. People are coming together, maybe at the governmental level and the religious level and the administrative and the technical and the bureaucratic level. We need to also try to find a way to integrate, to develop uniform standards throughout the Caribbean, okay, and so on and so forth. Once we've done that, then we can now work to do that with the diaspora. And in fact, it already started with the diaspora. We don't have Jamaican communities like we have Caribbean. We talk about the Caribbean community. It's always Caribbean community, okay? And they come together and send the money when the Jamaican people are having stuff, and come together when the St. Lucia people are having something. But it's not as organized still, okay? From within the Caribbean itself, there needs to be a better organization. And then amongst the diaspora, there is already Caribbean diaspora communities where they come together to address Caribbean issues and to maintain that Caribbean culture and identity within the mainland, okay? But, and just so you know, there is still, America is not just, the mainland is not just the mainland. You need to also remember that you cannot dissociate yourself from the mainland, from the US or from Canada, okay? The Caribbean, and that's why I wrote an article about developing the American Free Trade Agreement. What the Caribbean, if we had Caribbean unity, they need to make a proposal to Donald Trump about developing, he's moving away from NAFTA and doing all that, and talk about creating an American Free Trade Agreement. Okay, where all the Caribbean, okay, so where we see the Americas as one, not just US, Canada, Mexico, and not just US, Canada, and Mexico, but US, Canada, Mexico, Jamaica, Bahamas, all of us become one strong, powerful, and as a strategy though, strategically, so as to bring Caribbean into the benefits of NAFTA. So you want them to now expand NAFTA, so you create AFTA. So you want to, so now we have to do, that's the kind of thinking we're talking about, guys. And by the way, just so you know, life is about people. This is copyrighted. I wrote this. Life is about people and how they relate. Yet life is what you make it or allow others to make of it for you. Remember that. Life is about people and how they relate. Yet life is what you make it or allow others to make of it for you. So the dynamics of life that you live in, the space you exist in relation to other people, that's not necessarily natural, but it's created space in a sense, based on policies and history, so on belief and action. Okay? All right. We stop here, guys. We're gonna take a quick. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, for all of these changes that we're talking about, we need to get the mindset of the people to change. Prior to this class, I never heard so many things about Caribbean people or what's going on in the Caribbean. And after this class, what's really is happening out there? So to enlighten us, to let us know, to teach us more about our heritage, even what we're presenting here. So we would have to bombard maybe persons with our history, our stolen identity, to let them understand. And then when we get into the psyche and probably somewhat rebuild the people, then we are going to get the togetherness and the unity to help to push us forward.
Oh, anybody great. I like the comments, and yes, that's why we have this class. So now you don't go out there and just as academics. You are academics. You are the bastions, the arbiters of truth, the bastions of truth and progress. We're supposed to hold PNP and JLP accountable. Okay? You're academics, but you are also prophet and priests. You're also academics. All right? You learned. We have a responsibility to think. Yes? And I hope that this class is doing that. All right? All right, we're gonna take. This is a lot of information to decipher. Can we take a quick 3 minutes break, and then the next when we come back? By the way, Howard and the group love it. Love you guys. I love all the presentations. You might see me ask questions, but as a facilitator, that's my responsibility. Okay, because as I tell you, you notice we are going somewhere with this class. When we started, everything looked all over the place. Because you know why? They make life deliberately complex to confuse you and to confound you and to keep you complicit. And so now we have a lot to unpack. Sometimes you don't even know where to start. Okay? Okay.
Thank you too, sir.
Yeah, so we come back at 7:45 and the other group start setting up and you will go right into your presentation at 7:45. While the next group get ready to present, I just want to let you guys know that the Neoliberal Corporation, the tagline for the Neoliberal, the company that I've trademarked, the tagline is this: serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges. Serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges by making popular what was the monopoly. Now, that is the definition of communication, to be honest. I mean, the last part of our slogan or our tagline, which is really the mission and the vision. Okay. What is it to communicate? To communicate is to make popular what was the monopoly. Again, to communicate is to make popular.
Sir, excuse me. Can you please tell me how to stop? I put the wrong slide on the thing.
Whoever is sharing, please stop sharing, please.
Yeah, how do I stop? How do I stop sharing?
All right. While Lorna gets ready, while the next group gets ready to present, I just want to make it. No, this is important. Making popular what was the monopoly. So the classes are recorded and then we edit them and share them. So because in our effort to make popular what was the monopoly. What is monopoly? Monopoly means only a few people have access to the information. Okay. So when you communicate, you're sharing information, you're popularizing information or content that was limited to a small group or to one individual or to the privilege or to the special interests. Yes, that's monopoly. We talk about we are against monopoly. We're against monopoly. We're against the monopolizing information, monopolizing resources, because monopoly is the tool of power. Monopoly is the tool of the status quo, of the dominant, okay? To maintain their advantages. To monopolize is to dominate. Okay, so that's why they are against antitrust law. They create antitrust laws against cartelizing and monopolizing so as to dominate, okay, which leads to discrimination. So, but anyways, but communication though, in its essence, is to communicate is to make popular what was the monopoly. So that's the idea here. And in this class, this is important information because one student says, I haven't heard so much talk about Caribbean. We deliberately and we are intentional in our goal to help to serve the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges by doing what?
Sir?
Okay, go ahead. Are you ready?
Sorry to you. No, I'm not presenting. I'm asking for permission to leave.
Why?
Yes. Go again?
Why do you have to leave class?
Today is my...
We move right into a presentation. We'll be presenting on Cayman Island and Turks and Caicos Island, the Caribbean jewels. All right, so let's explore the vibrant culture and new development of these two distinct yet equally captivating British territories. I'll start with historical roots and the social political journeys, and we just did ours in basically like summaries. All right, so Cayman Islands, from pirates to prosperity, originally sighted by Christopher Columbus in 1503, the Cayman Islands were a haven. Sorry, I'm seeing, sorry about that. Are you seeing my screen, everyone?
Yes, we're all seeing it.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, perfect.
Originally sighted by Christopher Columbus in 1503, the Cayman Islands were a haven for pirates and a vital turtling ground. British settlement began in the 17th century. Their social political journey saw a gradual shift from a dependency of Jamaica to a self-governing British overseas territory in 1962, fostering stability and a unique legal framework. As for Turks and Caicos, salt, slavery, and sovereignty. First inhabited by Lucan Indians, then sighted by Ponce de Leon, European settlement focused on salt production, bringing enslaved people. After various colonial affiliation, they became a British crown colony. Their path to self-governance has been marked by a complex relationship with the United Kingdom, UK, maintaining strong ties while developing internal autonomy. Economic powerhouses, which is finance and tourism. Cayman Islands is a global financial hub. Take Turks and Caicos, tourism-led growth. All right, so Cayman Islands boost a robust economy driven by financial services, including offshore banking, investment funds, and captive insurance. Tourism also plays a significant role attracting luxury travelers seeking pristine beaches and vibrant marine life. And that's what Cayman. As for Turks and Caicos, it's an economy of that is predominantly tourism-based, with luxury resorts and stunning natural attractions drawing visitors worldwide. Real estate development, primarily for tourism, also contributes significantly. Efforts are underway to diversify into other sectors. And then I'll now have Tashani, who will present on the faith and community religious landscape.
Okay,
Tashani?
good evening. I'm here. Good evening, everyone. All right, so let's look at just landscape as we turn our focus to.
Shani.
Yes, sir.
You sound far. Can you? You're far and echoey. Can you come closer?
Okay. I'm not sure what I need. Are you hearing me any better? I still sound far?
Yeah, you sound a bit far, but that's fine.
All right, I can switch to another device if that would make it any better.
Go ahead. I think we'll be able to hear you.
Okay, so let's look at the religious landscape of both the Turks and Caicos Islands and also the Cayman Islands. Now, the religious landscape of both these sets of islands are pretty much diverse. The diversification of these landscapes are as a result of the colonial heritage and subsequent immigration that would have taken place over the years. While there is diversity, we must understand that Christianity is predominantly the faith that is the predominant faith, predominantly the faith in both Turks and Caicos and the Cayman Islands. There are, however, other religions that are evident there, to include Protestantism, Roman Catholics, and also other faiths such as Islam, Hinduism, and Judaism. And this actually just brings out the diversification that exists within these two sets of islands. Moving on to the next slide, please.
Demographics, a blend of culture.
Right. All right. So when we look at the demographics of the Cayman Islands, now according to a study that was done in 2023, there's an estimation of 83,000 persons living in the Cayman Islands. This by now would probably be a little bit different, but it was the most recent that we were able to find. Cayman Islands has a relatively small indigenous population. Its growth is largely driven by significant expatriate communities from over 100 countries attracted by economic opportunities. This creates a vibrant multicultural society. So one of the things that we would have heard about Cayman is that it has a very vibrant economy, and we would see a lot of offshore investments going into that country. When we hop on over to the Turks and Caicos, growing local and expat mix. Turks and Caicos also experiences substantial immigration, contributing to its population growth and diversity. Last information that we were able to check on indicates that the Turks and Caicos has a population of about 46,000 people. A significant portion of the population consists of foreign nationals, primarily from other Caribbean islands and also North America. Moving on to the other slide.
I have a question. 46,000? I used to live in Cayman Islands in 2000, and I lived there around in the 2000s, between
No,
2003 and
sir.
6.
No, sir, it's 83,000 for Cayman.
The estimated population for the Cayman Islands, we saw that in 2023 as being 83,000. But for the Turks and Caicos, our studies or
research show that it was 46 the last time
Okay.
estimate for
Yes,
2023.
yes. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. I thought you were talking about Cayman. Yes. Okay.
Okay. No, sir. All right. So, all right, let's look at the global standings, prosperity, and challenges. So it's like from rags to riches. So, these countries would have grown over time. The Cayman Islands, they have a high GDP per capita. The Cayman Islands is one of those islands that actually boasts the highest GDP per capita in the world, reflecting its status as a major financial sector. And I would have alluded a slide before of those offshore investments that come into Cayman. This prosperity is tempered by high cost of living. So yeah, for persons that actually live in Cayman, and we would have had dialogue with some of these persons, these are some of the things that they talk about. The cost of living in Cayman is relatively high. However, they do earn a lot more than some other Caribbean islands do. When we look over to the Turks and Caicos, we are saying that this economy is a tourist-driven economy. Turks and Caicos has a very robust tourism-driven economy with a growing GDP per capita, right? While experiencing significant development, it faces challenges related to climate change and infrastructure demands. Both territories, ladies and gentlemen, demand strong economic performance relative to their size, largely due to their unique economic models. They actively participate in international forums while navigating the complexities of their British overseas territory status. All right, moving on. Lorna.
We now have Nasha Gate, who will present on the notable voices of the island.
All right. Notable voices of the islands. For the Cayman, good night, I'm sorry. For Cayman Islands, we have Miss McLaughlin. She's the first Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Cayman Island, a pioneer figure in the island's political development. She was also the second national hero for the Cayman Islands. Then we have Mr. Aldin McLaughlin, a former Prime Minister of Cayman Islands, influential in guiding the territory's economic and political landscape. He was also an attorney and was a Queen's Counsel. or is a Queen's Counsel. Then we have for Turks and Caicos, we have Norman Saunders, former Chief Minister of the Turks and Caicos, a significant figure in self-governance journey. Delton Jones of Turks and Caicos, a prominent Turks and Caicos musician and cultural ambassador known for preserving and promoting local music. So in conclusion, we had come up with some key similarities and differences with both Caribbean countries, Cayman Islands and the Turks and Caicos. They are self-governing British overseas territory, and by self-governing British overseas territory, I mean they have their own government, right? And they're responsible for their own internal issues, but is still under the sovereignty of the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom remains responsible for territories defense and like foreign relations and stuff like that. Then financial where the economy is concerned, as Tashani would have indicated, the Cayman Islands heavily depend on their financial services, especially their offshore accounts, and Turks and Caicos is for tourism. So Cayman Islands has a larger population than Turks and Caicos. The legal system, both are English common law, and the English common law refers to the body of law developed in England, right? So their rule, their laws, and their judicial makeup is from England. It is characterized by its reliance on precedent, meaning the court typically follows previous ruling in similar cases, and its development too gradually of judicial interpretations of the law over time, and that law again is the British legal system. That's what both of them use. Cultural influence, diverse international expatriate influence for Cayman, and Turks and Caicos have strong Caribbean and American influence. So while both countries share the commonality of being British overseas territories in the Caribbean, focuses on demographic composition, present distinct identities, offering a rich tapestry of experience within the region. And that, I use tapestry. All right, tapes. I don't know if you guys know tapestry. It's like oh my god, like a mat, you know, with the different pieces, or even your grandma would maybe make a blanket with different pictures from different generation, and they put it together as one. You guys understand?
Like a patchwork. Like a patchwork?
Yes, Nasha
Yes,
Gay.
yes, like a patchwork. Thank you.
Or
Thank
like
you.
a quilt.
Yes. So it's come from various different parts of the world, different cultures, different, you know, that's what make up within the region and its experiences. So
Go ahead,
that's it,
Tashani. Thank
Ashani.
you. Thank you, Nashage. And Tashani, you can go ahead with the conclusion.
All right, so let us just wrap it all up. And in wrapping it up, we're saying that the Turks and Caicos, the Cayman Islands, both are British overseas territories, which you would have heard already. And it exemplifies the Caribbean's economic duality. Turks and Caicos relies heavily on tourism, offshore finance services, and fishing. Importantly, we want to acknowledge or to highlight rather, that the US dollar is actually the official currency. Its population, I would have given us before, a little bit over 46,000, and it's predominantly Black, with Christianity deeply embedded in social life. When we hop across to the Cayman Islands, we're saying that this population is nearing 86,000, and it boasts one of the highest per capita incomes in the region due to its status as a global financial hub. Christianity too remains dominant through secularism rather. Caymanian culture blends seafaring traditions with modern cosmetology, cosmopolit something. Right. There we go. Cosmopolitanism. There we go. And figures like Miss Cayman Island Universe and Premier Wayne Canton reflects its evolving identity. All in all, we are saying both territories face demographic shifts due to immigration and both grapple with balancing development and cultural preservation. Here ends our presentation tonight. If you have any questions, we'll take them now.
That's it, sir.
Yeah, I have what about you talk about Cayman Islands having high GDP and so on. What about what's the part? You know what the poverty is? And they're doing very well in Cayman in terms of the economic position of Cayman. Cayman is a territory. It's not Cayman is not an independent nation. And when Cayman was the 15th parish of Jamaica. Before Jamaica got independence in 1962, Cayman was part of Cayman. Cayman was part of Jamaica, and but Cayman decided to remain with Britain. Just so you know, there have been several conversations about whether or not Caymanians need independence, but most Caymanians decide to remain with Britain. Or with the monarchy. Just so you know, poverty is at 1.9%. So they have low poverty. Jamaica poverty is at 8.2%. However, there's high levels of income inequality. There's a lot of people, although they have low poverty. I mean, although poverty is at 1.9%, and they have a level of prosperity. A lot of the investment, a lot of the wealth, a lot of the data, the GDP, is a representation not of the actual what is produced within the country. A lot of overseas companies have their address in Cayman Islands because they benefit from because Cayman is a tax haven. So it is to be honest. So it's not necessarily So to be honest, it is a false reading. It is a facade. Cayman Island, in fact, here it is that they are reporting that GDP is has the highest GDP. Cayman Islands have one of the highest GDP in Cayman. I mean, in the world. They're not telling you that the GDP come from companies and corporations and multinationals and transnationals who are addressed in post-industrial countries. So while the gross domestic product is high, the gross national income is not. Okay? Because the profit goes back to the post-industrial country in covert means. All right? So that's the first. And many locals, many Caymanians who live there don't necessarily benefit. Only the technocrats or the plantocracy or the managers of these offshore banks.
But isn't that something, sir, they're trying to fight now to get back where they have certain things being for themselves? In other words, that when the jobs come about, it is really directed towards Caymanians. Because like you said, a lot of things is more dominated by the other country members, the other persons from other countries.
That's a problem, though. Yes.
Yeah.
The thing with Cayman
and
Islands,
even Turks and Caicos Island is experiencing.
One minute, let me answer that question. That's a problem, though, because you said that they need to create institutions, create jobs that go towards the Caymanians, but one of Cayman challenges is a lot of foreigners or immigrants, and any countries that have high wages always have a high amount of immigrants coming in, and then So they create that they have very restrictive immigration policy. It's even towards Jamaicans and to poorer nations who have their mic open. Please close it. And to many other.
I think Miss Henry mic is open.
Yeah. So okay. So they're part just like in the U.S. and many post-industrial countries that have high wages. Low wage countries follow those. But the thing is, in Cayman Islands, Cayman, they don't have. Well, many years ago, they never had. A lot of their skilled people come from overseas as well. A lot of their doctors, many of their surgeons. In fact, Wayne Panton isn't he from Jamaica? Even up to today, a lot of the top positions or the professional and skilled jobs are done by foreigners, okay, or within the Caribbean or overseas, and a lot of them come from and I understand that's one of the angst that some Caymanians have with some people from Jamaica. A lot of Jamaicans are hired are in a lot of Jamaicans work and live in Cayman. I live in Cayman as a pastor. When I was ordained by the United Church in Jamaica in the Cayman Islands, one of the things I was the associate pastor of one of the churches in Cayman Islands, and of course, and I won't say much about that, but I was one of the pastors there. So, but a lot of the and then the synod of the United Church or the head of the church or a lot of pastors, police officers, doctors, lecturers, skilled people come from overseas to Cayman. So when you talk about they need to create more opportunities for jobs for the locals, they also need to educate and expand the skill set. Yes, the skill of the locals so that they can occupy the positions that would normally be without relying on people from overseas. And of course, then again, Cayman Island Cayman is a cradle child of Britain. When they had Hurricane Ivan in 2020, is it or something like that? A lot of families. So although they have low poverty, a level of prosperity, they still have female-headed households, single-headed households, or immigrant households still suffer from poverty, high amount of poverty. Okay, that's one of the things. They don't have a minimum wage, so there's a minimum. They don't have, a social safety net. Is another problem in Cayman Islands as well. And not only that, they suffer from vulnerability. What if another Ivan comes again? They're gonna face the same issues of housing, and of course, that's a Caribbean issue. What if there's another natural disaster? So that's something that you have to plan for. That's something that you have to think about, and that I just want to bring that to the forefront because I just wanted to mention that. Anybody else? Anybody else? But good work on Cayman Islands. Good work on Cayman Islands. Anybody else go? Is that okay? What's the net? It's now 9:18. So we have group 5. Is group 5 ready?
Yes, sir.
The final group we take and then we'll end and then we'll end class. All right?
Say that again, sir.
Thank you, group 4. Very good job with the presentations. I appreciate that. Just so for the purposes of this class, you said that 4 of you presented and one person couldn't make it today. Which student was absent from your group?
Sir, Nalisha is the person I know who could not have made it tonight. She sent her apologies. All right, she was stuck in traffic. I called her. She said she would have tried to log on, but I wasn't getting back to her. As for what's his name, Owen Mackenzie, I haven't seen this person for the longest time.
He was at class last week. I saw him when
I'm sorry. I really don't know. I haven't seen him for the longest time. The last time we made communication pertaining to group work was when we did the one with the whole sexuality thing, and then that was it.
Can you reach out to Chantel for me because she's not here? I'm going to forget all of this. Who is the leader of the class? Is it you, Lornette? Each class.
It was the leader for what? This group?
Who's the monitor for this or the leader, the class rep? Every time we have a
okay, I think the class rep might be Annalisa, right? I'm not sure if that's what I heard the last time.
Is it? I don't know if we have one. But could Lornet, could you reach out to Chantel and give her an update? Let her know what's going on with your concerns about Hawaii.
I can only talk about my group.
Yes, your group about
All
Hawaii.
right,
I'm
thank
I'm
you
not
so much.
realizing that. Just speak with her for me. She's not here. It's a pity
No
she's not here.
problemo.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Yeah, man. All right, next group, you have the floor.
Can everyone see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we're seeing. Yes, we are. Somebody, whoever have their mic open, you probably have a fan close to you or something that's blowing.
Oh dear, 1 second. Okay, I am back. Good. Okay. Bonjour à tous. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous présenter deux pays magnifiques de la Caraïbe, francophones, la Martinique et Saint-Lucie. So, good evening, everyone. Hello, everyone. Today, our group, we are going to introduce you to two beautiful countries in the French-speaking Caribbean. This is Martinique and Saint Lucia. Now, I have a little bit of a background in speaking French, so I tried my French-speaking skills just now to emphasize on what our group will be doing this evening. Our theme, unmasking the guise of prosperity in Saint Lucia and Martinique. My group members are myself, yours truly, LaShawn Wilson, Nordia Henry, who I am not sure if she's here yet, but she was having difficulties. But that's okay. We got her. We are a team. We have Denton Dunkley, Leon Duncan, and Anne Marie Blake, who is on the North South Highway driving into Kingston as we speak. So, as we delve into tonight's presentation, let's talk about the historical background of these countries. So, for St. Lucia, it is a former British and French colony which gained independence in 1979. Martinique, still a French overseas department, and its colonial legacy continues to shape identity, governance, and social structure. Sir Leon Duncan, could you speak to us about the socio-political economy of St. Lucia and Martinique?
Okay, so let's dive into it. So, socio-political economy of the Caribbean is influenced by the intertwining of social and political and economic elements, often influenced by Western nations. So, according to one research, power and politics are embedded in societal narratives and norms, affecting political stability and economic decision making. Now, when political stability is messed up, so it is crucial to development, and when it goes awry, we see that there's mismanagement and confusion in policies, and we see that often in Caribbean nations. So we are still affected by our colonial past and our slave masters, and we need to break away from that. Now, when we did this research, we delved into comparing St. Lucia and Martinique. So we're going to go and give you some insights into these two nations. Now, the socio-political economy of St. Lucia. What do we realize here in St. Lucia is that, let's give you a little background on it. We'll go deeper into it as we get into more of the presentation, but St. Lucia is a small nation in the east of the Caribbean. So it's in the Caribbean Sea, that is east of the Caribbean. And it has over 100,000 people. So it belongs to several organizations, two of which are CARICOM and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. Now, many of you may not know what this is, so I'm going to explain that. So the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States are a group of Eastern Caribbean nations that they formed this Eastern Caribbean states, and their currency is called the Eastern dollar, I think. Eastern Caribbean dollar. That's what it is called. Yeah. Eastern Caribbean dollar, or ECRXCD. Yeah, we got it. Remember, we have time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they have certain vulnerabilities. The nation collapses or lacks its own stability. So whenever other things like shocks in the world happen, for example, they are highly dependent on Britain. They're very highly dependent on Britain for exports and imports. So whenever Britain has something happens in Britain, they suffer from that. So their GDP and consumption and import, export, and exchange rate and pricing is a part of the vulnerability in St. Lucia. Factors that impacts their vulnerability as well it includes their large fiscal deficit. So they spend a lot there. They spend a lot. So excessive domestic consumption, the inefficient fuel pricing, the inadequate saving to support investment. So the nation's government is not saving enough or using money wisely. Therefore, the citizens are not using money wisely. As other vulnerabilities include high poverty rates and high unemployment rates and the lack of participation in policy making. So in terms of the environment, the government framework requires for disaster is not there. They are not managing the disaster relief programs well in St. Lucia. As they have a volcano there and not much is put in place for if that volcano erupts again. So those are some of the vulnerabilities for it. So some strengths though are that they can expand their economy through tourism and other financial services. They are a part of the Eastern Caribbean Bank and the OECS, as we mentioned before, and this can create some kind of resilience for monetary gain and external trade aspects. And the maintenance of stable governing structures founded in their democratic values can also improve along with education that can help them become resilient. On the other hand, we have Martinique. And since 1946, the island of Martinique is a part of France. They are still a part of France. And this department of France, they have a high GDP per capita, and that is 19,600 euros in 2008, sorry, 2008. All right, so as you can see, the opposite between those two nations, one uses the Caribbean currency and the other uses the euro. And one of the things that cripple Martinique is that even though it has a high GDP, what happens there is the cost of living there is very high. It is super high. So what happens is people think that Martinique is this country that is supported by France and it is beautiful and they have a high GDP. However, there are a lot of social unrest there, and job fulfillment is at the top of that. So they have unemployment rate is very high there, and they still suffer from racism from France. While the country is made up of 90% people who are Black, dark-skinned Creole, and like the 1% or the 5% that is left that is white controls majority of the economic systems there, the financial systems there. So we see that is one thing that cripples Martinique. Other vulnerabilities includes ecological disaster. What does this mean? So for the past 50 years, they have been using a pesticide called chlordicone, and that has
damage their ecological systems. And even though that had happened, no agency, no government agency, no private agency has been faulted for this. Even though there are state of Department of France, the French government has not made it a point of duty to investigate this. We are probably the cause of it. And we have a neocolonial plantation tourism. This means that their tourism sector, even though this is what is a major part of what gives them their financial growth, it is governed by France. They have no say over what happens in their tourism. All of the organizations, as I said before, is controlled by the French government, basically. So they wanted to stabilize their economy and create employment. So they tried to use sex tourism. This means that persons from outside of the country can come inside of the country and, the sex and prostitution, basically. So they tried to use that, but it was not working. They also tried to build other shops and hotels and parking lots and roads, but this was crippled also by the fact that the place was polluted. Now, unlike St. Lucia, that has a democratic government, the Martinique government is they are governed by the French government. So all their laws and everything that they have is governed by France. So we got into this research, we had no idea what we were getting into. And in comparison, we're comparing them. We realized that the two nations of the Caribbean, both of them are part of CARICOM, are governed in different ways. Makes you wonder if CARICOM is actually a thing. If Martinique still is still controlled by France, and St. Lucia has the disillusion that they are still free, when because they use the currency that they use, which is the Caribbean currency, which is highly determined by the US dollar. You realize that they are not free. They are still using things developed by IMF because that currency is created by the IMF. And in comparison, both of them suffer shock whenever other large nations are affected. Both need to reassess their economic models for long-term transformation. Martinique should prioritize ecological restoration, cultural reintegration, whereas St. Lucia should concentrate on diversification and participation in policy design, because most of their policies is created by France and it is meant to hold them down. Now, Caribbean nations like St. Lucia and Martinique need to emphasize Afrocentric paradigms in their policies and discourse to reframe these issues and create revolutionary answers. So in order to benefit or to grow their country and create financial stability and to prevent social unrest, they need to get back to their roots and depart from the colonial policies and laws that they are governed by currently. So Afrocentric viewpoints promote resilience, group healing, and sustainable prosperity on the Caribbean terms of providing criticism of current power systems, as well as route to sovereignty of thought and actions. Lashawn?
Yes. All right. So we will be moving on to speak about the demographics and language of Martinique and Saint Lucia. So in regards to the demographic, I know Anne-Marie just said she's at a dead stop. So I'm going to go ahead and read the demographics of Martinique are that they have around 360,000 people. Their language is mainly French and Martinican Creole. The language plays a critical role in identity cultural retention, and the resistance. The demographics of St. Lucia, on the other hand, are about 180,000 people, according to the World Meter or Worldometer, and their language is mainly English and St. Lucian Creole. That's how that word is pronounced. Now we go to the religion and culture, which will be done by Denton Dunkley.
All right, thank you, Lashan. Good.
Before you go to the religion and culture, I just wanted to just draw your attention to Cayman Islands and Martinique. What are the if I were to ask you, what are the similarities, if any, between Cayman Islands and Martinique, based on the presentations today?
Sir, I would say that both of them are still governed by a Western state, and they have high GDPs, but they still suffer from some social issues like unemployment, and they spend a lot in Martinique and also Cayman Islands, and what's the other one? Yes,
Martinique and
Cayman.
Cayman.
Yeah,
Yes,
Martinique and
right.
Cayman Islands.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
They're still colonies.
So that is what that is similarities I see in them.
Yeah, they're still
However,
colonies.
the difference is, yes, they are still colonies. The difference is the difference in government, how they are governed. So the how France treat the difference is France government versus the English government, basically.
Okay, and what's the difference between how the British treat
the British defends their
Cayman and how the French
but
treat
French
Martinique?
they don't defend Martinique. Yeah.
I heard Martinique was beautiful, but I didn't realize that Martinique has a high amount of poverty. The poverty rate in Martinique, the last time I checked, in 2022 was 27%. Martinique's poverty rate is 27%. Okay. 27%. And so that's high. So although their GDP is high, and these two countries, they have high GDP, it's kind of weird that they have such a high GDP.
Yes, sir. I found it weird as well, because if they're making so much money, why are the people unemployed there? And when research points to the fact that most of the things, most of their economy is, exports for Martinique. That is their exports and tourism, and a lot of persons cannot
They're
fit.
heavily reliant on imports.
Go again, sir.
They're heavily reliant on imports.
Imports, yes. That's
Yes,
sorry.
Because they don't make anything in these two countries.
Yeah.
Apart from music and tourism, because everything they have is imported. They spend a lot of money importing. So a lot of money goes. So they rely heavily, and not only that, they have a culture of dependency. So Cayman Islands rely heavily on British subsidies and funds, but Martinique more so. Then they rely heavily on subsidies, and they don't really have a lot. They don't really have a manufacturing and industrial sector. They have a financial sector, but the financial sector is really from offshore banking. Okay, and so a lot of the money goes overseas. Yep, that's part of it. However, Cayman Islands, the poverty is at 1.9%. Okay, as against Martinique, it's 27%. So something is happening there. Okay. Yes, Leon.
So it makes you wonder when people say it's better if Jamaica had stayed under the British rule and governance, if we'll be better off. I'm thinking to myself, would we really be better off? Because we're with the two nations that we chose to research. One of them is say they are free, just like Jamaica, and the other one is still governed by their colonial nation, and we see that they are suffering there in both countries. So when compared to Jamaica, you can never really tell, would we really be better or would we be the same?
That's a good question that probably we should take on. now that we are exploring all the islands of the Caribbean, maybe you can ask yourself, and you could have studied it. I mean, it will be better. But what I've said is that what we need is the Caribbean unity. I would say I don't believe staying with these countries will augur any better for the Caribbean. What? Because it will still be under a philosophy that continue to depersonalize and estrange us. Sorry, make us separate us or create a dichotomy between ourselves and our ancestral past. Okay. So, but then again, what I've said is that Caribbean integration is what we need. And not only that, Caribbean connection with its African roots and the African and those the people in Africa, the African nations. Or maybe what we need is an after American free trade, an American integration. I don't know, but these are good questions that we can ask ourselves. You know.
Sir, may I ask a question, please? Shannon here.
Go ahead.
Is it possible that we could have retained our Jamaican identity and still keep the British currency as our dollar?
I mean, keeping the British currency. I'm quite sure currency has nothing to do with your identity, but Jamaican identity is a hybrid identity that is inundated with Britishness, with colonial thought of who we should be and who we are not. And we find ourselves still within within a kind of worldview that continues to promote the dominant over the others, the colonial countries, the France, the Canada, the Germany, the Russia, the UK. So independence or not, the fact of them, as I said to you, independence or not, these countries were never to rival the dominant. Look what's going on with Ukraine. Yes. Look what is going on with Taiwan, or what China is threatening to do with Taiwan. Look what's going on with Haiti. Look what's going on with Cuba, Venezuela. You know. Look at Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a Caribbean, is an island in the Caribbean. They're a colony still. They're a territory of the US. As I said to you, the Caribbean needs to, in order for the Caribbean need to come together, there need to be a Caribbean integration. And then the Caribbean will be able to compete with the rest. That's the kind of freedom that it requires. A kind of integration among all the peoples and nations of the Caribbean. Yes? In order to be competitive enough to overcome its vulnerability and to address the challenges of the natural disasters, so on and so forth. Okay? But anyways, let's wrap up here with religion and culture.
All right, so religion and culture. So predominantly Christians, Roman Catholic, and Protestant are in both islands, which is Martinique and St. Lucia. And they both have strong Christian roots due to their colonial history. Now, St. Lucia and the Martinique, St. Lucia is with Britain, and Martinique with France. Also, the Roman Catholicism is the most widespread denomination, especially in Martinique, because of its French influence, while St. Lucia is more noticeable on the Protestant side due to its presence in the British influence. Also, Christianity helps to shape the island's holidays, their moral values, education systems, and their community structures. African spiritual traditions and cultural expressions persist strongly. So, despite the dominance of Christianity, African derived spiritual practices such as obia, voodoo, drumming, and ritual dance continue to thrive, often blended with Christian beliefs. And these practices are seen in festivals, music, storytelling, and seen in everyday customs. They also serve as a form of cultural resilience and heritage preservation, connecting communities to their African ancestry. And number three, religion remains a force for both identity and colonial legacy. And we'll say that religion plays a dual role. On one hand, it's a source of identity, unity, and resilience, shaping community values and cultural life. On the other hand, it reflects on the colonial imprint with the Europeans' religious systems having been imposed during colonization. And this also results in the complex blend. While Christianity provides a social structure, many still reclaim the pre-colonial spiritual expressions to honor their roots and resist the um, their cultural perspectives. Next slide, please. All right, so just a quick breakdown. So, as we said earlier, that the St. Lucia, the former British colony, was colonized by France, and there's about 61% of St. Lucia who is Roman Catholic. We have 25% who is the Protestant, and kind of go down in Seventh-day Adventist, which is 10.4% based on the statistics. We have the Pentecostal 8.9, we have the Baptist, which is 2.2, Anglican 1.6, Church of God 1.5, and other Protestants 1.0. Now, other Christian like Evangelical and Jehovah's Witness, we have them at 3.4. Other religions, Rastafari and Hinduism, are there, which the Rastafari is 1.9. The Hinduism is 0.3, Islam 0.1, and non-religion we have 5.9. So there is a total percentage of Christians at 90.2%. Now, and we'll have seen a more recent in the Roman Catholic, which fell from 50.6 with a secular rising to 14.1, reflecting a notable shift since 2010. Right, so there is also a breakdown for Martinique, where overall we know that it's a French overseas department, and the Christians are at 96.5. Roman Catholics are approximately between 85 to 90%. The Protestants are the modest minority, and this includes the Evangelical and the Adventists. Other religions such as Islam and Hinduism are under 1%. And the secular or unfiltered are at 2.3%. Now, when we look at the Catholics, they are more dominant at the 85 to 90%. The Protestants are small, but they are growing. The Muslims are at 0.5. The Hinduism are 1%, and non-religion at 2.3. So realize that Catholicism is established as a principal religion for both French and the British rule. The Protestant tradition surged under the British influence, particularly the Anglican, the Pentecostal, the Adventist denominations. African spiritual traditions such as Rastafarism reflect on the synchronism and the Renaissance through often a small official count. And we have the secularization is on the side, especially in St. Lucia, where none climbed from 6% from 2010 to 14% by 2022.
All right, so let's
I
look
like
at
how the
some.
Rastafarians are all over the Caribbean, though. I like how they're everywhere. I wonder who are these? I mean, are they Jamaicans who have traveled other parts of the Caribbean and they take, or is it I'm interested to find out how Rastafarians ended up in all over the Caribbean, though. This is powerful.
Yeah, I wonder the same thing too as well, sir.
All right, so let's look at some notable figures in St. Lucia. Although St. Lucia and Martinique are relatively small islands, they have produced several influential figures who've left their mark on the Caribbean and the world. So we have Sir Arthur Lewis, who is a Nobel Prize winning economist whose work on development economics has shaped global economic policy. We also have Sir Derek Walcott, who also won a Nobel Peace Prize, well, Nobel Prize, sorry, but for literature. His poetry and plays highlight the Caribbean experience with a rich mix of languages and history. Now, everyone is supposed to know Gillian Alfred based on her recent win at the Olympics. She is a rising star in track and field who has represented St. Lucia on the international athletic stage and continues to inspire young Caribbean athletes. And just to put in there, she went to school in Jamaica and went back to celebrate her country. And we love that she kept it in the Caribbean. So for notable figures in Martinique, we have Aimé Césaire, a renowned poet and politician and one of the founders of the Negritude movement, which celebrated Black identity and rejected colonial racism. We also have Frantz Fanon, a psychiatrist and revolutionary thinker whose writings on colonialism and decolonization still influence political and psychological studies today, as well as Paulette Nardal, a pioneering Black feminist and intellectual who played a key role in developing the ideas behind the Negritude movement and advocated for women's empowerment in the French-speaking world. These individuals, my classmates and my lecturer, have helped shape not only the identity of their islands, but also the cultural, political, and academic landscapes far beyond the Caribbean. So to conclude,
by the way, 1 minute. Césaire.
Yes.
He quite powerfully talk about the negritude. You guys, when you get a chance to read about negritude, the idea of Black identity, and in the last class I talk about that Black characteristics or the African characteristics according to Karenga. Okay, we'll talk about that. But that's part of the negritude movement, embracing Black identity. In terms of looking at the characteristics of the Black man, of the African, as against that of the European. And of course, Frantz Fanon. You might hear me talk about Fanon all the time in this class. And if you look at your syllabus, 2 notable books by Fanon, which is part of your recommended reading, Black Skins, White Masks. In that book, in Black Skins, White Mask, he says the Negro is not, full stop, any more than the white man. The Negro is not, full stop, any more than the white man. In other words, the Negro is trapped in his inferiority, while the white man is trapped in his superiority. So it's as if the white man must always have money and always drive a good car or always excel and so on and so on. And so if a white man projects something else, then that's a problem in a sense. And of course, as against the white man, the Negro is not. He's also trapped in his inferiority to think and act in subjugated ways or in certain ways defined by society in a sense. So for Fanon, the problem is not just with the Black man, or I don't like using the word Black. It's not with the African, it's not with the other. And the problem also relies within the white man himself, both within the white man, within the Black man, because so that's the problem because they're both trapped. Society has trapped them to think in ways that divorces them from who they ought to be or who they are as human beings. Kierkegaard said, once you label me, you negate me. So it's within that mindset that Fanon here speaks in that book, Black Skins, White Masks. And in the book, Wretched of the Earth, he also creates a more potent and poignant power. He says that that the Caribbean there must begin a new history of man, the Caribbean. So, and he wrote that book towards between the 1950s and published in the 1960s. Then he died as the book was published. But and you know, in the 1950s, 1955, he had the Bangdong Conference. So he wrote in Record of the Earth, the Caribbean must begin. As we think about independence and freedoms and so on, and we think and the nationalist war for independence, the revolutionary war for independence, we think about creating a new Caribbean, a new people. We can't create it within the mindset of those who had enslaved us. Okay, and it can't be ceremony. It can't be ceremonies. So we must rewrite history in a sense. He says that Fanon as tabula rasas, as blank slates. So that's quite powerful. Okay. Anyway, so wrap up this and then we end class.
All right. So to conclude, one, colonial influence still impacts identity, autonomy, and opportunity. Two, both islands reflect resilience through language, leadership, and culture. Three, true post-colonial progress demands cultural revival and Afrocentric policies. Now, quickly, I just want to give some fun facts about the countries. So, a piece of France in the Caribbean. Martinique is an official region of France. Its currency is the euro, which we spoke about earlier. You can sip espresso on the beach and buy a fresh baguette at a boulangerie. Another fun fact, and if you guys knew this, which Sarah wanted to do before you before you gave us the additional info, just show me some of the emojis with the hands up or the thumbs down in the chat as I go through the fun facts, guys, if you want to participate. So, I don't know who knows Napoleon Bonaparte, but Napoleon's empress was born here. Empress Josephine, the wife of Napoleon Bonaparte, was born in Les Trois-Îles, Martinique. Also, there is rum agriculture paradise. So agricole paradise. But did anybody know that the wife of Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Martinique? All right. So the rum agricole paradise. Martinique is world famous for its unique rum agricole made directly from sugarcane juice, not molasses. Another fun fact, Mount Pellé's deadly eruption in 1902, Mount Pelé erupted and destroyed the city of of Saint-Pierre, killing nearly 30,000 people in minutes. I don't know if anybody knew that, but that's an interesting fact. Also, the Creole culture and cuisine shine bright. Martinique's food, music, and language are a vibrant mix of African, French, and Caribbean influences. So, another few more fun facts and I'm done. Only country named after a woman. Who knew that St. Lucia is the only country in the world named after a historical woman? Anybody knew that? St. Lucy of Syracuse or Syracuse? Sir, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Another fun fact, the second largest of the Windward Island. So that is a fun fact about St. Lucia. Home of the world's only drive-in volcano, which is the Sulphur Springs near Soufriere, which allows visitors to literally drive into a volcanic crater.
I think that's one of the first fun facts you've shared so far. All the other facts, yes,
sir,
because you are.
I feel bad, sir, but continue.
No, the other fun facts is about colonization. It's France's imprint on Martinique and St. Lucia. That's nothing. We don't celebrate that in this class. We don't celebrate colonization. We don't celebrate. Okay, it's named after who? It should have been after a Caribbean woman. They should rename Martinique and if anything. Same thing with St. Lucia. Why is it still named St. Lucia after they've gotten independence? They should have changed the name. Absolutely ridiculous. And named after someone African or somebody from St. Lucia. What kind of independence? That is exactly what French Fanon talk about. The Caribbean must begin a new history of man as tabula rasa. No, but yet still they are still building on the on their colonial past, embracing their colonized position, embracing their defeatist, and that's what the Afrocentric paradigm is against, thinking in a defeatist way. We promote thinking, we promote victory. Okay. Talking about St. Lucia being named after somebody from overseas is a defeatist. It's defeatist, really. Okay. All right. So, but sorry to burst the balloon, but it's true.
That's
But
okay,
no, but I want
sir.
you to really think about it, though.
I understand what you're
And
saying.
this part of this class is doing critical thinking. Critical thinking is thinking about thinking and thinking what previously thought. So I want you to think about it, and I'm not trying to burst your bubble or anything, but I'm really trying to facilitate the mental juices for us to start thinking in certain ways that promote Caribbean, that build Caribbean, that create Caribbean strategies, you know what I mean?
Yes, sir. So I will just share one last one, which is, I think, is a fun fact, is that the St. Lucia is the jazz capital of the Caribbean. So you know how Jamaica has dancehall? Just to interject, Jamaica has dancehall, St. Lucia has jazz. They have their jazz festival, which is one of the most prestigious music events in the Caribbean, drawing global artists each year. And
Fine. I will give that one to you. I'll give you 5 out of 5 for that last fun fact, because first of all, okay, fine. Jazz is American, but American is African or Black American or African American. It's really jazz is African American, and all right. So I will give you that, but it's still foreign, but at least it's still within the African. It's still within the African. Okay, so I will give that fun fact, but yet still you can't compare St. Lucian jazz with Jamaican reggae and dancehall. That is purely Jamaican.
It
Okay,
was not
we created
necessarily.
that. Jazz come from overseas. Okay, and they're embracing. Yeah, yes, St. Lucia, you can be the jazz capital of the Caribbean. All right, because
Right.
first of all, that is imported. What we have is original and organic in Jamaica.
That's true. That's true. But as a Caribbean nation, they hold true to their to being the part of the Caribbean that represents jazz and represents it well. So that was my reason for making the comparison. So jazz is to St. Lucia in the Caribbean as dancehall is to Jamaica. I understand what you're saying though about not bringing an Americanized thing and calling it a Caribbean thing, sir. But I just wanted to make a little comparison to say where different things are found, where you can identify something in the Caribbean.
But you're not wrong, or you're not wrong or right here. I'm just showing another. It is my responsibility as a professor to provide another perspective, so you can think about that perspective with the one that you have provided. So now you can come with a more clearer. You can develop your conclusion even better. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I understand. And thank you. Thank you for saying that, sir. So thank you as well, class, for listening to my group. Again, I do apologize on behalf of my 2 group members, sir, Nardia Henry and Anne-Marie Blake, who are still at work, unfortunately, and they're driving back into Kingston. So that is the reason why they were not able to be a part of the presentation, but they absolutely did their part, and it's been a great pleasure working with this group. Thank you so much, class. Good night.
Thank you guys, and please send a copy of each presenter. Please, group, send your presentations when you have completed them to Chantel with references. Okay, please show references where you have gotten your information at the end. So send that. You'd have to send it right now, but you can send that before the end of the semester. So next week we'll have.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So you want the PowerPoint because I've sent a written document, but you want the PowerPoint as well.
That would be great. Send the PowerPoint as well. Yeah. All right.
Okay. No problem.
Yes, please. And just so next week we have group 6, 7, and 8, and that's it for next. So 6, 7, and 8. So this is great. I didn't know that group 5 we're gonna be able to fit in group 5. But you guys did well. And we even had discussions. It was really good today, man. I'm looking forward to next week, group 6, 7, and 8. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna end
Sir,
class.
one
Yeah,
more
go ahead.
thing, one thing before you go. As I was watching all of these presentations, one
Yes.
thing came to my mind.
Yes.
These colonialists never had any intention for the Caribbean or the countries that they colonized to thrive. It was always in their mind to hold them down, and they're the ones that are benefiting.
Yes, that is true. I'm happy that you make that as assessment. That's good. Okay, that's very good. You have observed that. And not only that, it's not just with Caribbean people, but it is African people. And the second book, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, I said, wherever there is black people, there is lack. Or sorry, African or black and brown people, there is lack. Okay, or preponderance of black and brown people, there is lack. And they have made it so, created strategies and policies and so on and so forth. They have made it so. Okay.
Exactly.
You know, so just so you know, so that's important to note. Thank you guys. You guys did extremely well. Okay, and see you guys next week.
Sir
There
Mackenzie.
is no reflection that is due this week. Yes.
I don't know if you saw my reflections for the last couple of weeks. Jerome
Have
here.
you sent them to Chantel?
Your email.
No, please, guys, you have to send. Let me tell you, if you don't send them to Chantel, I have not received it.
Okay.
Chantel keeps me in line and on top of this class and every class. I'm telling you, if without her, I feel like a dead fish swimming in water. So I'm telling you, man, she is my executive assistant and she's lecturer's assistant, and she helps me. So please send everything.
Forward them to her.
Yes, forward them to her. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. May God bless you and keep you, and may you continue to embrace your heritage. Continue to find you. Continue to question and develop and grow. I'm not telling you must abandon what you know, but what I'm telling you is still explore and develop, because God is always speaking. Walk good and take care. This is the Neoliberal Around podcast.